Ladies and gentlemen, it's yours truly, the speed sensation, Dustin Flash Waller, and you're watching the Three Count Podcast.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And with our season premiere, season 5, you know we gotta go big, we gotta go hard. And just like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You see the man right next to me, and I'm gonna tell you where you can find him. You can find this man at Wrestling Open, ETU. You can find this man at Freelance, H2O, GCW, Mystery, Beyond, United, TOS, and C4. And that is just in the fourth quarter of 2023, y'all. This man is one half of IWTV's tag team champions, the Miracle Generation. He's also 1/3 of the Miracle Ones. He is a high flyer. He is undeniable. He is Dustin Flash Waller.
Wow. Jeez, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. That just got me fired up.
Hell yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Here we go. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, I definitely am excited, man, because, I full transparent. I forgot to tell you, too, like, we're back before. This is season 5, so you're our season premiere for season 5 of Now Entering the Ring, and I was mad excited, so I wanted to make this like a big thing. And obviously, like, all our intros go big, but there you go, I gotta put some extra stank on the season premiere,
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yo, so we have met at a lot of Beyond shows, a lot of wrestling opens, right? Sit back and chat it up. We've crossed paths like here or there, other shows, but it's kind of like every week I get to see you and Kyle like perform and stuff, man. But you guys, like, I don't know, I feel finally like I'm like, oh man, I can actually just sit back and just have fun ass conversations with these dudes. So I definitely appreciate you guys like taking me in and like actually like being able to chat and pick y'all's brains.
Oh, of course, bro. No problem at all. Absolutely. Anytime.
So let's hop into this because I know a lot of people ask me, but who is Dustin Waller?
That's a good question. See, that's not really a question that a lot of people like, that a lot of like interviewers or podcasts ask. It's just like what got you into wrestling? Like, a lot of people like to ask those kind of questions, but like, who is Dustin Waller? That's such a broad question because that's a question that a lot of people tend to like stray away from. But like, Dustin Waller for me is like, Dustin Waller is me. It's simple as that. It might, like, if it sounds corny, it probably is, but like, Dustin Waller is literally just me. It's the kid who's wanted to wrestle since he was 8 years old, who finally pushed into wrestling and is finally here, finally doing the things that he's doing now, and at the level that I'm doing him at, I couldn't be more grateful. So Dustin Waller is just someone who never gives up at the end of the day. Simple as that.
I like that because, like, if there was ever a match to like showcase that attitude, right, that never die attitude, it would be, I mean, there's a ton of them that we could pick from, but the one in particular that sticks out with me was the match with Swipe Right, the chairs match, right? We just brutally getting shot after shot after shot, getting thrown out, getting back in, trying to fight, keep fighting, get back up, get knocked down, get back up. It was something to be seen that you guys were like, and this is just a recent match that we're talking about too. I know you have tons of them out there, but it was just that particular match I thought was very cool because you guys, like I said, you guys obviously got the up, and then all of a sudden you had to battle back. You had to keep battling back, and then you guys eventually got your win. I was I thought I watched you guys perform a lot, man. I think you guys you guys are great. So you guys are good. And then you got your shout out from Jim Cornette.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we did. He loves us now. It's official.
he's a fan, I guess. That's what it is.
Maybe.
But yeah, so if Dustin Waller is you, then what brought you into the business?
What brought me into the business? So wrestling wasn't in my family at all. It wasn't something that I grew up watching since I was like fresh. But like, my dad thought it would be something that it could be something just like there's something to bond over. Something like, oh, there's this wrestling thing, you want to like try and watch it? Oh yeah, sure. I guess why not? And we started watching it when I was about like, I would say like 7 or 8 years old. And it just snowballed from there. It turned into something that I wasn't just watching because I was interested in it. I was like, well, this is something I want to do. This is so cool. You got all these like these larger than life superstars, these crazy athletes, and I was like, I want to be a wrestler. And obviously, my mother felt a certain way about it, but as I feel like most mothers do when their sons or daughters first get into wrestling.
Yeah.
But I literally pushed for wrestling and nothing else but wrestling, whether it was through high school. It was like wrestling was number one for me, and here we are.
Yeah, something about like you get kind of locked in on this idea. Like what's funny for me is like even like when I was growing up, like I really didn't have no idea what I wanted to do. I was just kind of like floating all over. And when I finally decided to make the jump and make the attempt, like bro, like I was 34 years old. So like I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, let me
Yeah.
just jump into this because I was like, I love professional wrestling as a kid. I loved it as
Mhm.
a teenager. It got me through my military tour. I was like, yeah, let me get into this. And so and I remember like my mom, she was like, well, because at the time when I was wanting to get in, I had been also talking about wanting to get back into training with some friends for mixed martial arts. And
Mhm.
she goes, well, pro wrestling will be a lot more safer than mixed martial arts. I was like, yeah, mom, I don't think you understand how that works. But all right, yeah, mom, like I'm gonna be 100% safer
Yeah.
than anything else. And it was just it's funny how you're talking about how your mom feels differently. And now that my mom knows that like the stuff that I've been doing, she's like, yeah, I probably should have just told you to stay with mixed martial arts.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yo, so tell me, man, like what is like what's you've been in for a quite some time, let's put it that way. And what is one of the worst bumps you've taken?
Oh my God, there's so many. Honestly, like every single one. Everything hurts. Like you were saying, your mom thinking that wrestling's going to be a lot easier. It's probably a lot rougher than mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
But man, there's so much. I'm trying to think because I've definitely been asked that before, and I haven't been able to give a straight answer. I want I want to say, you know what, the chairs match that we had, like you mentioned with Swipe Right, I feel like anything in that match. That was probably one of the most brutal matches that I've ever been in. So I feel like that match as a whole, getting hit with a chair sucks. Like it sucks. Like it really sucks. So I feel like that match as a whole is just like anything that was the most painful happened in that match. So you could watch that match back and be like, oh, okay, I get it.
It's funny though, man, because like I have been hit with a chair. And the thing
Mhm.
was is like it's weird because like you set yourself up, right? Like like you're in a chairs match, obviously you're gonna get hit with a chair. Or you talk about it in the back and you're like, hey, like and then I'm gonna grab a chair, I'm gonna hit you. So you prepare for those kind of things. When I got my first chair shot, it was not called. It was just something that was done on the fly. And I'll never forget like how pissed I was. Because I was like, we did not talk about this. But I was like, I have to go with this because now we're in the show and I cannot not sell this. So I was, oh my God, that was brutal. And I was like, I was so pissed when I got to the back and my trainer was like, yo, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, everything's fine. And then afterwards, when I told him what happened, he was like, what the fuck? That wasn't talked about. I was like, I know.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was the worst. It was the worst thing. But outside of that, man, what's been like one of your like let's talk about just this last year, right? So 2023. Like what's been one of your favorite moments that you've had in 2023? Because I mean, I know I think I know what it is personally, and I'm just want to wait to see what you say, and then like I'm just gonna
There's so many for so many different reasons. I feel like if you say moment wise, I'm not even gonna say match wise. Moment wise, it was probably winning the IWTV tag titles in February. Moment wise, that was huge because it was something that myself and Kyle have worked to
yeah
for so long. We really busted our ass over this past year and a half at Open, at Beyond, wherever, just to get our name out there. From literally nobody knowing who we were at all. No one knew who we were 2 years ago at the Restival, because we're approaching the Restival in 2 weeks. At the first ever Restival is where me and Kai really started to debut at Beyond and stuff like that. No one knew our names. No one knew who the hell we were. And now we're walking into the Restival this year as the IWTV Tag Team Champions, and it's pretty crazy. So I would say winning that match and getting the titles was a good moment. Match wise, I have to say that my match with Leo Rush in
yeah
January, that's a match that I've wanted since before I started training. and to be able to have it at a place that I call home, like Wrestling Open, was just a very full circle moment.
Yeah, and I remember like when I caught up with you for the first time and actually got to sit down and watch like your matches. The first match I got to saw you at was at Water Everywhere with
Mhm.
Beyond.
Okay.
And I was watching it and I was like, yo, I was like, and the funny thing was is like because I had seen you before, but for
Hmm.
some reason it never registered it was you until later. And I was like, oh, that was Dustin. I was like, how did I miss this? Like it was so weird. But seeing you in that 6-man tag, I was like, oh wow, this dude's electric. Like he's fast on his feet, quick to move. And I was like, and it just felt like you were always like in the right position, like to whatever you needed to do, right? Whether it was setting someone up and then coming in with a cutter outside the ring, or just like being in position ready to catch somebody. It was cool to see that like you're quick and agile to get back up and move to like where you needed to get to, but still tell the story like, hey, like I'm in pain, like I'm selling. Like some of it could be shoot, some of it could be work, who knows? But it's funny because I thought like I'll tell you what I thought my favorite moment for you was, right? To be transparent, it was when you were sharing the ring with your dad.
Oh,
Because I thought that was a cool moment because like as like my dad has seen me work. The first he flew in from Nebraska to
wow.
Maryland to come hang out with me when I was living in Maryland, and then we went to a show in Pennsylvania, and he came and watched me, and I was defending the titles against defending one of my the title I had at the time against a friend of mine named TJ Sykes. And so when I got to compete in front of my dad for the first time, I thought that was like one of the coolest moments. And so I knew that that son father moment, like being in the ring together, was probably like one of those most badass moments for yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. I definitely feel like if it was a little different where we didn't all get our asses beat, then maybe it would have been a little bit cooler. But it was definitely a pretty surreal moment because that was my first time that my dad has ever stepped foot in a wrestling ring. He didn't even get in before the show. Like I realized that in the moment. I see him stepping in the ring, and I was like, oh, he's. I hope, please don't fall, don't fall, don't trip. I'm like, I didn't even show him how to get in the ring or anything. He's never felt a ring in his life, so it was a cool moment for him because he started becoming a fan of wrestling the same way I did. So it's not like he was a fan of wrestling and he brought me into it. We were getting into it together. So we
Mm,
pretty much grew up with wrestling ourselves together. So to have him have that moment at Wrestling Open and to be able to experience it and to be able to have the adrenaline that we all go through, and even it was the funniest thing. We get back and he was like, that was quick. That was it. I was like, it wasn't. I was like, we were out there for like 15 something minutes, but
yeah,
it's you're having so much fun. So like he really not I don't want to say he understands now, but he really like has a whole newfound respect for wrestling. And
yeah.
that was an awesome moment. That was so much fun.
It was one of those things where like my dad, when he saw me in the ring, and he didn't even realize, and it's just like you said, like your dad, right? Because the match that I had with my friend TJ was like almost a 20-minute match, and we didn't even know that we had gone 20 minutes. But the crowd was hot; they were into it, and my dad was like, "Bro, it's just I thought you just got in there and just got out." Like he's like, "I didn't even realize there was an entire match that happened." He's like, "I was just so involved." He was like, "It was so cool," and then like after I remember like after my match, like I ran to my table, right? Because that's where my dad was. And I jumped up on the
Mhm.
chair and I was like, this is my dad right here. And then everybody referred to him as the big red dog because everybody it was a cool
That's
moment
really
for my dad and myself that I got to spend with him. And I was like,
nice.
this would be something like I treasure for like forever, that I'll always have
Yeah.
that memory. Even though I don't have it on camera, I'll always have that memory with him.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. That's awesome.
so for yourself, right? Like individually, like what are the goals for like 2024? Like just for yourself. I know I can see like, Miracle Generation moving out to the West and in the Midwest and hopefully down into like the Texas area. I know you guys have been part of like DPW, right? And you guys are still
Mhm.
growing, still pushing, right? But for you individually, what's the next level up, man?
Man, like that's another question that I always get stuck on because I've never been a big goals person. I don't really have too many goals. Like 2 years ago, my goals were not to be where I am right now. I wouldn't have even told you that I would be close to where I am right now. 2 years, excuse me, 2 years ago, I wouldn't like. It wasn't even a thought. So I honestly like my next goal is just my next match. I try to make everything. as big as it can possibly be. So I don't want to look over what's currently happening to focus on something else, and I don't want to be let down if that thing doesn't come to fruition. It doesn't happen. So I'm very much of like whatever I got in front of me, I'm gonna make the best of it. But for 2024, like you said, like earlier this year, we went to California. We've been doing like the DPW. We definitely want to travel internationally more as much as we can. We hit Canada later on this year, just capped it off. I did 3 shows in Canada in the last 2 months, and so that
Nice.
was freaking awesome to be able to go to Canada. I want to go to more countries. I want to go as far as we can, as far as we possibly can. Individually, I just want to keep getting pushed. Because that's how you get better. That's like you're not going to get better by staying here. You got to be pushed to your limit. You gotta fail, and you got to climb. You got to get knocked down and fall back up. Like if you get knocked down and fall back up, you got to get knocked down and climb back up.
Yeah.
So, but like you have to be tested. You have to be thrown into the sharks. Like you have to be. That's what happened to me and Kylon 2 years ago when we got thrown into the whole Beyond Wrestling Open mix. We weren't ready for it. We were not guaranteed, but every opportunity that we got, we maximized and we did as much as we could. So for 2024, I just want to get as many opportunities as I can, not let down a single opportunity, and just keep pushing myself. Simple as that.
It's funny because like you talk about things like in the step of like baby steps to get into like the bigger steps, right? And it was funny for me in 2022, like I remember popping up and hearing about this thing called Wrestling Open. And I was like, yo, I kind of want to be involved with this. It was like, how do I get here? And then the funny thing is like before I moved to Massachusetts, like I have family that lives in Worcester. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a quick jump for me if I can just make this happen. So like I started like looking and asking questions, and then I knew a couple people who are already working on the open and then asking questions like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what type of setup? Like, how do I do this? Where do I go for that? And just asking questions. And so I remember popping up like on a random Thursday in like July of 2022 and working like a practice match. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, it went, I came back like a year later. I just coincidentally moved to Massachusetts. I was like, yo, I'm just gonna here I am, like trying to just work, give opportunities and just figure things out. So I'm like starting to peck. And for me now, I think my big goal is in 2024 is just to work the open more consistently. Like I have so much fun being around the crowd
Oh
and just
yeah.
being around everybody. I'm like, bro, like I just want to be here and just like put in more effort. That's all. Like want to do what I can to help like elevate this product. Cause I think for me, it is weird to say it like this. There's probably other opportunities that are going to open up, and I'm not going to try to dismiss them. But I feel like, like I'm almost near 40. Like I'm like, yo, bro, like I have to see where this road's going to wind up, and then just kind of figure out if this is my place or not. But at that time, kind of like you, I just want to pedal to the metal
Yeah.
until we find out what's going to happen. But because I'm just now going into my 5th year this year, and I'm like, all right, well, let's hope for the best and just
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah. That's what you got to do.
So, one of the other things that I like asking this question too, and it's kind of going to go hand in hand with a question I'm going to ask right after it, right? What's one of the hardest lessons that you've had to learn being in the business?
Oof. One of the hardest lessons I had to learn. It's a good one. There's so many. Me starting wrestling at 16. I started when I was a sophomore in high school. So I guess like that experience that you have as a late teenager into the graduating high school, doing that's I didn't have any of that because I was so set on one thing, and that one thing was wrestling. So it definitely matured me very quickly, because when I first started wrestling, there was not a lot of 16-year-olds, 17, 18-year-olds wrestling like there are like now. Like there was a lot of like older guys that are vets that have been doing it for as long as they have been, and I had to learn how to mature quickly. And I definitely it made me see everyone equally. Like for me, like in wrestling, I could be like I'm 22 right now. I could wrestle someone that's 42, and I don't want to say we have the same mindset, but in wrestling, wrestling's like it's all the same. You all think the same way. It's different flavors of ice cream, but at the end of the day, wrestling's wrestling. We're all here because we're fans.
Yeah.
So it's wrestling definitely taught me to grow up quickly, and you have to be able to take no for an answer. You have to be able to take no for an answer. Like if you think the second that you think that you know everything, you're absolutely screwed. you're so screwed. You like
Yeah.
you're always there's like I never want to have a match and be like, oh, okay, that was cool. I want to learn something from every match. I never have had a match where I'm like, that was perfect. That match was so perfect. No, I'll watch it back and I'll be like, this sucked. This was awful. This got to change. This got to change. This got to change. So you definitely have to be very open minded. You have to like the one thing is don't get an ego. So
Right.
you have to be able to take no for an answer. You have to be able to take criticism. Like you have to be able to told when you're wrong. Like be humble when you're told when you're right. Like definitely just like very, what's the famous one? Like mouth shut, ears open. Like
Yeah.
you have to be a sponge. So it's wrestling definitely matures you for sure.
It's one of those things where I think like for me, living a whole life prior to like pro wrestling, like with the military, and then like going into college and college wrestling, and then the military, and then getting out and trying to find your way, and then get back into pro wrestling. I think it's something that like I always try to keep myself like pulled back, right? Because it's like you don't want to ride the highs too high and ride the lows too low. And
Hmm.
so one of the things I like that you said this, right, that you got to be a sponge, right? One day when we're in the back, you can ask me, and I'll open up my bag, and in my bag there's a literal sponge in my bag, and it's just to remind myself that like I'm there to soak up knowledge. That's just the constant reminder that I want to give myself, because when that got handed down to me, I was like, that is a weird thing to like think of, but every time I open up my bag, I see it, and I'm like, that's right. We're here to learn and try to
Yeah.
perfect this craft that we have. And we always know we're going to strive for perfection, but it's never always going to be perfect. We'll always
Mm.
find something that we want to fix. But I think about that a lot, where it's like, hey, like figure this out, learn this, work on this. There's so many aspects of this business that you have to figure out. And I think for you, that's great, because being young and then learning it at a young age, I wish that I would have had that same opportunity when I had turned, you know, 18, 19 years old. And I
Yeah.
was like, hey, yo, like, bet, like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. This is how I'm going to get there. Right. I was a sophomore in college, didn't know what I was doing. And I ended up failing out of my first college and then joining the military a year later. Uh, but no, it's cool that you're able to understand, like, hey, like, I had the same mindset as some of these dudes who have been in the business like 40 plus years. We know what the concept of what we're trying to accomplish, right? Which ultimately is just entertaining the fans and putting on the best show that we can. It's one of those things where I try to figure out too, because as I'm starting to finally get into the tag team game, right, with my friends, I want to know for you, what's been like one of the hardest things that you've had to learn being a tag team wrestler?
That's a big one because when myself and Kylon started, we weren't tag team wrestlers. We were singles guys, and we didn't get into wrestling to be tag team wrestlers. We trained together, so we already had good chemistry in the ring because we'd wrestled plenty of times. So when the opportunity came up to be a tag team for Beyond Wrestling out Uncharted Territory, we said, yeah, we're a tag team, and we weren't. If you watched Uncharted Territory, we got a little cameo from my boy Jonathan right here,
Hey,
my boy John.
in,
But yeah,
in 355 episodes, that's the first time we've ever had a ferret on the show.
I know, yeah, he just woke up. I saw him walking. I was like, well, he's gonna interrupt what I'm saying. But yeah, so we were not a tag team when we first started, and we had to learn really quickly what it was like to be a tag team because we'll watch some of our old tag team matches and be like, wow, these were so bad. But in the time, we thought they were so good because we didn't know any better about tag wrestling. So it definitely helped that we were already like really good friends. We trained together. We knew each other really well. So that's also another good reason why we mesh in the ring because we're best friends outside of the ring as well. So I definitely think the hardest thing is learning how to have a tag team match because tag team wrestling is completely different from. Oh my god, he's gonna knock over my phone. Tag team wrestling is completely different from singles wrestling. Completely different. And when we first did Uncharted Territory, there was one tag match on the card, and it was us. And now you can go to a wrestling open, and there'll be 6 tag team matches on the card.
Yeah.
So it's cool to think that we had a hand in bringing tag team wrestling back up in New England because tag team wrestling wasn't really hot. And me and Kai just started going absolutely as crazy as we could in any match that we have and still do. So yeah, I definitely love tag team wrestling. From going from a singles competitor to a tag team wrestler, it's a big switch, but it's definitely one that anyone can do.
Yeah, and I feel like there's like some. I mean, there are pros and cons, right? Like you really have to understand like who your partner is, how their dynamic works, how your character
Mhm.
works with their character. Like you're learning like all sorts of new stuff about it. But then like one of the benefits too is that you get to learn a whole new skill set, and you don't
Oh
got
yeah,
to take that many bumps. Well, unless it's you guys, and I feel like you
yeah,
guys
makes
bump
sense.
everywhere. Yeah, you guys, you're like y'all are go big or go bigger.
Yeah.
Yo, so seeing that you've been in the business for a while, right, and that you've kind of been traveling here, there, everywhere, right? Before we get into the best part of the 3 Count Podcast, my question for you though is, I need one do and one don't of the locker room.
Ooh, one do and one don't of the locker room. A do is just be nice. It's as simple as that. Be like we're all people at the end of the day. Like we're all people. I'm very fortunate to have been in very healthy locker rooms. I'm not just saying it because it's one of my homes, but Wrestling Open has hands down the healthiest locker room in wrestling. Just because, like you said, it was a small startup company with small startup wrestlers that no one really knew, and now we're all growing together. So everyone has the same amount of respect for everybody. So definitely just be respectful. We're all people. Talk. We don't got to have full fledged conversations, but just be people because that's all we are. So I would say a do is just be nice. Just be friendly. And a don't in the locker room, there's nothing really crazy. I obviously like don't steal anything. Like if you see wrist tape on someone's bag, ask them to use it. Hey, is this yours? Yeah, I'll use it. Just don't just take it. I feel like the do's and don'ts are very self-explanatory. There's not really anything in a locker room I've been like, oh my god, this just happened. Like this is insane. Like there's really nothing like that, especially in the locker rooms that I've had the fortune of being in front of. So I definitely feel like just the do is just be respectful. Simple as that.
It was funny, man, because like I've been on this show. I've been doing this show like in particular for like over 4 years, right? And I brought a trios group on, and we were talking about a don't, and one of the guys said, "Don't fall asleep in the locker room." And at first, I was like, "Oh, that's a no brainer. Like you don't do that." And then I witnessed someone fall asleep in the locker room, and bruh, I was just like, "Hey, yo, that dude had it coming because he was an asshole to everybody." They woke this man up and just kicked him out of the locker room. I was like, "Bro, hey man, you should know the rules."
Yes, so
All right, man. So let's jump into my favorite part of the 3 Count Podcast. Right, it is a 3 Count Podcast, 10 count questions. Mr. Waller, is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast. Whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
damn. All right, here we go.
All right, so we're gonna put on Imagine Timer for added pressure.
Okay.
Bing.
Boom. There
And in
it
the words
is.
of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
Ooh, SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
Oof, I'm not a movie person. Favorite movie? I'll go with my mom's. Ice Age.
Nice. I like that. PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox all day. I have the controls behind me, but don't worry about it. I have Xbox all day.
Favorite cartoon?
Favorite cartoon? Again, wasn't a big TV or cartoon person, but I'll say Phineas and Ferb was one I used to watch.
I like that. That's a good pick.
Phineas and Ferb.
Apple or Android?
Oh, I have an Android. I'm not even. I'm not even. I have the Z Flip. I have the Flip. My phone flips. I'm Android all day. Green bubble. Go suck
Let's
it up.
go. Green bubbles all day. I love it.
Yeah, green
All
bubbles
right.
all day.
You may have an answer to this one, so I'm just curious. Favorite actor or actress?
Favorite actor or actress? I love Tom Hanks. Love Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is amazing.
It's a great pick. I love Tom Hanks. Marvel or DC?
Marvel or DC? Again, wasn't a big superhero, but I'm gonna go with Marvel because I'm more familiar.
Okay. Nice, nice, nice. Favorite podcast?
Favorite podcast? I should listen to more podcasts, but I really don't. I'm gonna go with it just because you named. I'm gonna go Joe Rogan because Joe has some good guests on his podcast.
Yeah, I can't even front, man. Like
Joe
I
Rogan.
don't listen. Yeah, I don't listen to all of them, but as soon as I see one that I'm like, oh, I want to hear that guy talk, and I
Yeah,
go and click into it. I'm like,
yeah.
let me check it out. All right, so nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Nominate one person. Oh, I'll nominate my tag team partner, Kylon King.
Let's go. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this show.
Mm.
Favorite curse word.
Favorite curse word. Fuck. I don't even know. I don't know. There's so many. There's so many good ones.
There's a lot of
So
good
many
ones.
good ones. A lot of good ones.
So
Shit. Maybe. Who knows?
yeah. I feel like anything with 4 letters is probably like the ultimate put down. Like whether you want to go with the F word, you can say fuck, you can say shit. Some people like to use the "see you next Tuesday." That's another one that a lot of people love. So I'm like, this
I've
yeah. There's
never heard it. I've never heard it said like that. That's hilarious.
oh, bro, like I love it because like British people will say that word with no problem. Ah, you bloody
No
cunts, blah
problem.
blah 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 blah. The moment that an American says it in the United States, like people, like it's the worst word that you can say. I'm like, no, no, no. There's other curse words out there that are way worse than that one. So I was like, we cannot have that. We can't do that. Batman. Well, listen, those are all my questions for you. So the last thing I need is for you to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Where you can find me on all my social medias is at It's Dustin Waller on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever kind of social media platform, you name it. Where you can find me wrestling wise this week, we got this week off to breathe and relax because next week we've got the rest of a weekend. There's, what is it? I believe like 8 shows. Myself and Kylan are on 6 of them, and that's in 4 days. So definitely just check out the festivals in Worcester, Massachusetts. You got so many companies. You got Wrestling Open, Beyond Wrestling, ETU, Pizza Party, Rad Pro, ICW, Blitzkrieg. You got so many promotions running. If you have IWTV, now is the chance to get it because you're gonna get a lot of your money's worth with freaking 8 shows in 4 days. So definitely check out the festival. And yeah, I think that's it for me.
Bet. Well, he told you where you can find him. He gave you all of his handles. He let you know. Like he even repping his boy Desmond Cole like on his head right now.
Oh yeah, I got a big boofer. I got my
Yeah.
Ichiban shirt on right now.
Hey.
My big boofer hat. You already know.
Yeah. Hey, so what does that mean? That means like every great part of a wrestling match. We got to take this home because this is the 3 Count Podcast Presents Now Entering, and now I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, you got to have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently. You can't. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering? You see him right there, Dustin Flash Waller himself. So you guys know what to do. Tune in the next episode and be there, or you're really just following us on all of our social media platforms. You're subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're even following us on Spotify. You're checking us out on Amazon Music because we are there too. Or you're checking us on iHeartRadio or whatever that little jingle thing is that they do. You're telling your parents about us. You're telling your friends about us. You're telling your dog about us. You're telling your aunt and uncles about us. You're even telling your enemies about us because we love haters too. You're either buying our merch, sharing this out with all your people, or really you're just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Peace. Kawaii. What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is just kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, between time, love y'all.